Suspending Parliament is not acceptable. It's not on. What the Prime Minister is doing is a sort of smash and grab on our democracy in order to force through a no-deal exit from the European Union. What's he so afraid of that he needs to suspend Parliament to prevent Parliament discussing these matters?
Welcome back. That was the Labour Party leader, Jeremy Corbyn, condemning British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's efforts to suspend Parliament ahead of the pending Brexit deadline, essentially fast-tracking a departure from the European Union without a deal in place. And while it's Johnson who requested Parliament's suspension, it was actually technically Queen Elizabeth, the typically ceremonial head of state, who had to approve this request, which she did. With me now from London is NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley. So, Matt, this feels like I'm trying to understand Boris Johnson's calculation here, because while this may get his no-deal Brexit, it feels like he did sign a political death warrant for himself going forward. Matt?
Well, that's certainly, Chuck, what the opposition hopes. Jeremy Corbyn is ready to let him hang on this. You know, he said today that he was going to try to file a vote of no confidence or move for a vote of no confidence. But number 10 Downing Street kind of sniggered at that, Boris Johnson's office, and said, try. Go ahead. You're not going to win. And if you do win the no confidence vote, you're still not going to have time to convene a new unity government before we prorogue Parliament and send you all packing home to start a new session later in mid-October, only a few weeks before that Brexit deadline. So, Boris Johnson is basically thumbing his nose at not only the opposition, but members of his own party. Because remember, Chuck, it was Brexiteers don't just form members of the Conservative Party. A lot of Conservatives in Parliament were very, very much opposed to Brexit. In fact, the majority of all Parliament members were opposed to Brexit.
I believe we call them here. We would call them
majority of the British people who ran it.
Here they're called never Trumpers, and I think they're never Brexiters, I guess, in some ways, sort of a same version of their...
They were exactly the same way.
Right-leaning party. Let me ask this. Boris Johnson asking for this power tells me he does not think... That means negotiations did not go well with Merkel last week and did not go well with Macron.
A lot of people here would tell you, Chuck, that Boris Johnson never had any intention of negotiating. He was always hell-bent on what we would call a no-deal Brexit. And, a lot of people here would say that. Boris Johnson would say, I've been working on a plan. I've been trying to come up with something. And he says that this prorogation of Parliament, which, it helps to think of this, Chuck, as more like a reset rather than a suspension. It's kind of like when you close the browser on your internet and all of the tabs go away and you start, collecting them again. That's exactly what this is. It's bringing up new legislation, starting with the Queen's speech in a couple weeks. So the whole idea is that he gets to introduce a new platform, a new agenda, but he's really kneecapping the Parliament that's supposed to check him and that's supposed to have some kind of insight onto this accelerating move towards a no-deal Brexit, which is just like throwing yourself off of Big Ben and hoping you hit something soft,
Is there anything Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour leader can do to somehow interrupt this attempt?
They've got about a solid week coming up. So on Tuesday, they're going to come back into Parliament, and then in the next week, they're going to be prorogued or suspended. They're going to be sent home. In that week, Jeremy Corbyn could try to file or move for a vote of no confidence. That could see all of that suspended, and then Boris Johnson would simply dissolve Parliament, call new elections. Those new elections, though, Chuck, they wouldn't happen until after October 31st, and that's the date that Britain charges out of the EU. So that's not going to help anybody, especially not the opposition.
Matt, I have a no-deal exit strategy here, which is the end of my show. Matt Bradley in the London Bureau for us. Matt, thanks very much. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.